I'm Jasmine Love, and I'm on the road to recovery. I grew up in San Bernardino County, California. I was born there, raised until I was 12, moved to Spokane, Washington. Life was very hard. I was born to 2 active meth addicts. My father was in and out of my life till I was 9 years old. Both of my parents have been to jail and prison for distribution. My father for manufacturing. We moved to Spokane to get my mom off of meth, and then to get me away from the gangs and the drugs. It wasn't long after we moved to Spokane that I found the gangs and I found the drugs. The home became very toxic and abusive, and I moved out. I was homeless. I met a drug dealer who wanted help selling drugs. Now, my parents didn't know it then, but them selling drugs taught me skills that I would later on take into my teenage and adulthood. My first time ever getting arrested, I was 14 for possession of a controlled substance and possession of and delivery. I went to juvenile. At that time, I still thought I had dreams and goals, and that was to go into the military, which you couldn't do with charges like that. So I had 2 options. One was a diversion or one was drug court. I chose drug court, where I was put in intensive inpatient and outpatient treatment. So about 4.5 years ago, I got arrested in Sandpoint. They ran a K9 around my car. They alerted to drugs being in the car. So I went to jail that night. I got arrested. I went to my very first court appearance. I got arrested numerous times, and they were not transporting across state lines at that time because of COVID. So they would book and release me. So I just continued. At this time, I was really heavy into my addiction. My house ended up getting raided in the Spokane Valley by the sheriff's office, and they had been through my backyard numerous times. I would just sit there and wait for him to leave. But this day was different, and I started calling my sister and my mom and getting their phone numbers and such, so that I told them I was going to jail. At that moment, I knew I was done running. I was done. I knew about God prior to that. I didn't really know too much about him. I didn't really have a relationship with him. In jail, the women would talk to me, and they tell me like they could hear him talk to them and stuff. After hearing the women talk about hearing God talk to them, like, I literally put my earplugs in my ear and paced that pod for hours, begging him to talk to me.
Medical aid, overdose.
And I know for a fact that he was moving, because I literally died on fentanyl. Like, I was no pulse, no breath, no nothing. I was on the critical intensive care unit for 3.5 days on life support, fighting for my life, and put me on Narcan drip for a 1.5 days to pull me out of that drug-induced coma. And that in itself is God to me. So I got released into the Sweet Magnolia program, and it's been the biggest blessing. I went from being a participant in the program to a graduate of the program. I moved out on my own. I had a minor relapse with alcohol, but But the women in the house, even though I wasn't still a part of the program, they all surrounded me. They brought me food, and that night they picked me up for a meeting and took me home. I wake up and surrender, and I go to bed surrendering. That's my number one thing. If I don't surrender, then that's when my life falls apart. My main prayer is, Jesus, teach me how to love him like you do. And it's just how I have to live my life now.